I have to admit, when I first looked at the stack of research for today, I thought, okay, animals. I know what an animal is, you know? I have a dog. I've been to a zoo. I eat burgers. How complicated can this possibly be?
Famous last words.
Right. Because then I started reading the actual data in this animal encyclopedia, and my brain just sort of, it broke.
We are dealing with a scale here that is, well, it's honestly hard to wrap your head around.
It really is. It's probably the most diverse, chaotic, and complex kingdom on the planet. And the scale is exactly the right place to start.
Good.
Because we usually exist in this, like middle ground, dogs, cats, humans.
Yeah.
But biology goes so much further in both directions.
So let's try to visualize this. I want everyone listening to just close their eyes for a second. Unless you're driving, please don't close your eyes. And picture the absolute biggest living thing you can conjure up. For me, it's always been the blue whale.
The absolute titan of the ocean, yeah. But the numbers, man, the numbers are just ridiculous. We're talking about a creature that can weigh up to 120 tons. I can't even visualize 120 tons. What is that? Like a fleet of buses.
A very, very large fleet of buses. Or think of it this way. The blue whale is an animal so massive that its tongue,
just the tongue
inside its mouth, weighs as much as a fully grown African elephant.
No, that's absurd. So you have a tongue the size of an elephant just swishing around inside a mouth that's basically the size of a living room.
Exactly. And this isn't just a monster sitting there. It's a biological machine, a huge one. And to keep a body that size moving, to keep that massive heart pumping and the brain firing, it has to consume just an unbelievable amount of fuel.
How much are we talking?
A blue whale needs to eat about 6 tons of krill every single day.
6 tons? That's a dump truck full of shrimp, basically.
Pretty much.
Every single day.
Just to keep the lights on, just for basic maintenance.
Okay, so hold that massive, overwhelming image in your head. The whale, the elephant tongue, the 6 tons of food. Now, I want to violently shift gears. I want to zoom all the way down to the other end of the spectrum, way past the dog, way past the mouse. I want you to picture a honeybee.
A complex animal in its own right, for sure.
Oh, yeah, but we're not even stopping at the bee. We are zooming in on the fur of the bee, because the research mentions something living on the bee.
That's right. Clinging to the hairs of that honeybee, you will often find a mite, a varroa mite, usually, a microscopic organism.
And that's an animal.
That's the kicker. That mite is an animal. It has legs, it has a mouth, it has a digestive system, a nervous system. It is living its entire complex life on the back of another slightly larger animal.
It's like a Russian nesting doll of biology. You have the whale, then the bee, then the mite. And the mite isn't just hitching a ride, is it? It's a parasite.
It is, yeah. It's feeding on the bee, but, and this is a brilliant and kind of grim example of evolutionary strategy.
Yeah.
It usually doesn't kill the bee, at least not right away.
Why not? I mean, if I were a parasite, wouldn't I want to eat as much as I possibly could?
You'd think so, but if you kill the host immediately, you die too.
Ah.
You lose your home and your food source all at once. The smartest parasites, evolutionarily speaking, they weaken their hosts but keep them alive long enough for the parasite to reproduce and spread to other bees in the hive. It's a managed decline.
That is just diabolical. But it really sets the stage for what we're trying to do today, doesn't it? We aren't just looking at, cute animals. We're looking at the machinery.
Exactly.
We want to know how this whole kingdom functions, from the microscopic mite all the way up to the blue whale.
Exactly. We're looking under the hood. Because whether you're a whale or a mite, you are facing the exact same fundamental problems. You need to find energy, you need to move, you need to reproduce, and you need to not die. How different animals solve those same problems? Well, that's what makes biology so fascinating.
So let's start at the very beginning. The most basic question, which I have to admit I thought I knew the answer to until about an hour ago. What actually is an animal?
That sounds like a trick question, doesn't it?
It really does. Because I know a rock isn't an animal, and I know a tree isn't an animal. But when you get down to the microscopic level or the deep ocean level, the lines get a little blurry. Like, is a sponge an animal? Is coral an animal?
They are. And to understand why, we have to look at the rules of the club. In the broadest sense, the definition of an animal revolves around how you get your lunch.
Okay. The lunch test. I like it.
Right. Think about a tree. A tree is an autotroph. Auto meaning self, troph meaning feeding. It makes its own food.
Right. Photosynthesis.
It just stands there, soaks up sunlight, sucks up water, and synthesizes sugar. It's totally self-sufficient. It's a solar-powered snack factory.
I wish I could do that.
It'd be convenient.
Right.
Now, animals are heterotrophs. We cannot do that. If you stand in the sun for a week, you don't get full. You just get a really bad sunburn and you starve.
Right.
To survive, animals must consume other organisms. We have to eat the plants, or we have to eat the things that ate the plants.
So rule number one, you have to steal your energy from someone else.
Essentially, yes. And rule number 2 is about cellular structure. Animals are multicellular. Now, there are plenty of single-celled organisms that swim around and eat things like an amoeba, but they aren't animals in the strict kingdom sense. They're protists.
Ah, okay.
To be an animal, you need a body made of many cells working together.
So if you are a multi-celled thing that eats other things, you're in the club.
That's the entry fee, yeah. But once you're in the club, there's a checklist of behaviors that pretty much every animal follows. Biologists call these the characteristics of life.
I remember this from school. Mr. S. Gren, right? Some kind of acronym.
Movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, nutrition. Mrs. AUS. It's a handy mnemonic, for sure, but each one of those letters represents a massive engineering challenge that the animal has to solve.
Let's break them down, because some of these are way more complicated than they sound. Let's start with M, movement.
Movement is huge. If you can't make your own food like a plant, you generally have to go find it, or, just as important, you have to run away from things that want to eat you.
But wait, plants move, don't they?
Yeah.
Sunflowers turn to face the sun.
They do, but that's a different kind of movement. It's growth-based movement. It's very, very slow. Animal movement is powered by a specific biological invention, muscles.
Which are basically tiny engines.
They are. Muscles are just bundles of specialized cells that have one job: to contract. They get shorter. That's it. That's all they do. But if you attach a bundle of cells that gets shorter to a hard skeleton, you create a lever.
And you get movement, like the red-footed tortoise in our notes.
That's a great example. Even a slow animal like a tortoise is a marvel of physics. To take a single step, the tortoise's brain sends an electrical signal down a nerve. That signal hits the muscle contracts, it pulls on the bone of the leg, and the leg moves forward.
And that all happens in, what, milliseconds? It's a chain reaction of electricity and mechanics.
Well, just to move a few inches.
Okay, so you're moving. But you can't just move randomly or you'll walk off a cliff or straight into a wall. You need S sensitivity.
You need to sense the world. You need to gather data from the environment around you. And this is where the nervous system comes in. Eyes, ears, noses, skin. You are constantly gathering intelligence.
The example here is the moth. Now, I usually think of moths as the things that sort of bonk into my porch light and then die. Not exactly geniuses.
We give them a hard time, but moths are actually highly sophisticated sensory platforms. You just have to look at those feathery antennae on a moth's head.
They look like little ferns or something.
They are high-gain chemical sensors. A male moth uses those antennae to smell the pheromones of a female moth, and he can detect her specific scent from miles away.
Miles! You're kidding.
No. He is filtering the air, ignoring the smell of flowers, garbage, and trees, and he's locking onto one specific molecule that tells him, mate. Then he flies upwind to find her. That isn't random stumbling. That is precision-guided navigation.
Okay, I have a brand new respect for the moth. So we move, we sense. But to do any of that, we need energy. Which brings us to R.
Respiration. And this is where people often get confused. Respiration isn't just breathing. Breathing is the mechanical part, getting air into your lungs. Respiration is what happens inside every single one of your cells.
It's the chemistry set.
It is the combustion engine, basically.
Yep.
You take the food you ate, which is broken down into glucose, and you mix it with the oxygen you breathed in. When you combine them chemically, you get a release of energy.
That's the fire that powers everything.
Metaphorically, yes. It's called aerobic respiration, and a great way to picture it is to think of a team of huskies pulling a sled across the Arctic.
Okay, yeah. Those dogs are running full tilt.
And to keep those muscles firing, their bodies are frantically burning glucose with oxygen. That's why they pant so heavily, to get more oxygen in, and why they get so hot, because the reaction produces heat as a byproduct.
And like any engine, it also produces exhaust, right?
Exactly. The waste product of that burning is water and carbon dioxide. You breathe out the CO2, which brings us very nicely to excretion.
The polite word for all the body's bathroom habits.
It's dirty work, but it's arguably one of the most critical engineering challenges. If you don't take out the trash, the house becomes toxic really, really quickly.
We mentioned breathing out CO2. That seems easy enough. But what about the other stuff?
Well, specifically the liquid waste. When an animal eats protein, meat, beans, muscle, whatever, the body breaks it down. But the byproduct of breaking down protein is nitrogen. And nitrogen, in the form of ammonia, is incredibly toxic. It will kill your cells.
So you have to neutralize it somehow.
You have to convert it into something safe.
Hmm.
Mammals, like us, convert it into a compound called urea.
Which we flush out with water. That's urine.
Right. It's a simple solution. Dilute the poison with a lot of water and pee it out.
Hmm.
But that solution is heavy. Water is heavy. Imagine carrying a gallon jug of water around with you all day just to get rid of your weight.
It's a huge drag.
Now imagine you're a bird, like the blue-footed booby. You need to fly. You need to be as light as a feather, literally.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to fly around with a heavy bladder full of water just to flush out your waste. It's just too inefficient.
So you need a lighter toilet system?
Exactly. So birds evolved a completely different chemical pathway. They convert that nitrogen not into urea, but into uric acid. It's a white paste. It contains almost no water at all. It crystallizes.
Wait a minute. So when a bird poops on my car, that white stuff.
That white stuff is essentially solid urine. It's highly concentrated waste. It requires very little water to process, which is a key adaptation that keeps the bird light enough to fly.
That is brilliant. I mean, it's annoying for my car paint, but biologically, that's brilliant. It's the trade-off. Mammals waste water to save energy. Birds waste energy because making uric acid is more costly to save weight.
And that is the essence of biology. Everything is a trade-off. There is no perfect anima. There are just millions of different solutions to the same set of problems.
Okay, so we've got movement, sensitivity, respiration, excretion. We skipped N for nutrition, but we kind of covered that. You got to eat. Then there's G for growth, starting small and getting big. And finally, the second R, reproduction.
The ultimate goal. Biologically speaking, if you don't reproduce, you are a dead end. Your genes vanish from the planet. Whether it's a lemon shark finding a mate in the ocean or a bacterium dividing in a petri dish, the name of the game is pass on the code.
So that's the checklist. If you do all those things, congratulations, you're an animal. But let's zoom in again. We talked about the cells doing all this work, the machinery.
Right. Section 2, the biological blueprint.
We said animals are multicellular, but an animal cell isn't the same as a plant cell, is it?
No.
Yeah.
And the difference is absolutely crucial. Picture a cardboard box. It's rigid, it's stackable, it holds its shape. That is a plant cell. It has a thick, hard cell wall made of cellulose.
And that's why trees can stand up without having bones. They are basically made of billions of tiny, stacked cardboard boxes.
Correct. Now picture a water balloon. It's squishy, it's flexible, and if you pile a bunch of them up, they just flop over into a puddle. That is an animal cell. We have a cell membrane, but no hard, rigid wall.
Why would we want to be water balloons? That sounds like a serious downgrade.
It sounds like it, but that flexibility is the absolute key to movement. If your cells were rigid boxes, you couldn't flex a muscle, you couldn't run or jump or hunt. By giving up that structural wall, animal cells gain the ability to change shape.
But the downside is, yeah, we're floppy.
We are just blobs. So to solve the blob problem, animals had to invent a different kind of support structure.
The skeleton.
The skeleton. But not necessarily bones. There are different ways to build a skeleton.
Right. The notes mention the horse leech, which is a terrifying name, by the way. I'm just putting that out there.
It is, but it's a fascinating creature. It has no bones at all. It uses what's called a hydrostatic skeleton.
Hydrostatic, that's like water pressure.
Exactly. Think of one of those long balloon animals a clown makes. It's just soft rubber. But when you fill it with air under pressure, it becomes rigid. The leech is a bag of skin filled with fluid. It has muscles wrapped around that fluid. When it squeezes the muscles, the pressure inside goes up, the body stiffens, and it can push itself forward.
So it's literally running on hydraulics.
It is. It's a very cheap, effective way to build a body if you're small and live in water or a damp place. But it doesn't offer much protection. If you want armor, you go the route of something like the spiny lobster.
The exoskeleton.
Right, wearing your bones on the outside. It's a full suit of armor, it's great for defense, and it gives your muscles something solid to pull against.
But there's a catch. We keep coming back to trade-offs.
The catch is huge. The armor doesn't grow. The lobster inside is getting bigger and bigger, but the shell stays the same size. It's like buying a suit of armor when you're 10 years old and trying to wear it when you're 20. Eventually, you get crushed.
So you have to take it off.
You have to molt. The lobster has to find a safe place, crack open its own shell, crawl out of it, and then puff itself up to a larger size while its new skin slowly hardens into a new shell.
But in that gap, in that transition period,
it is a soft, naked, delicious blob of meat just sitting on the ocean floor.
Yeah.
It is totally defenseless. Molting is, without a doubt, the most dangerous time in an arthropod's life.
That sounds incredibly stressful. Hey everyone, I'm just going to take off my armor for the next 24 hours. Please don't eat me.
Which is why the third option, the endoskeleton, is so successful for large animals like us. We have the hard parts inside.
The scaffolding method.
Exactly. The bones support our weight, but because they are inside, they can grow with us. We never have to molt. We never have to have that period of being soft and vulnerable.
And the bones themselves are adaptable. This is the part that blew my mind. The bird bones.
Oh, the avian engineering. It's incredible. If a bird had solid bones like a cow or a human, it would simply be too heavy to fly. Gravity would win every time.
So they have hollow bones? Is that the whole story?
They are hollow, yes, but they aren't empty tubes. If you cut a bird bone open, it looks like the inside of the Eiffel Tower. It has all these delicate internal struts and cross-bracing.
So it's mostly air, but it's reinforced to be strong enough not to snap.
It's the highest strength-to-weight ratio in the entire animal kingdom.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant, brilliant engineering.
It really is. So we've got these squishy cells powered by mitochondria, supported by water or armor or internal scaffolding. But let's scale up again. A single cell is one thing. A leech is one thing. But what about something like an elephant?
The complexity ladder?
The source material contrasts the rotifer with the elephant. A rotifer is this tiny, microscopic aquatic animal, right?
It's so small that it doesn't need systems.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need a heart. It doesn't need lungs. Oxygen just diffuses right through its skin and into its few cells. It's passive.
But you can't be an elephant and do that.
Absolutely not. This is the surface area to volume ratio problem. If you are an elephant, the cells in the middle of your liver are feet away from the outside air. Oxygen isn't going to just magically drift in there.
You have to go get it. You have to fetch it.
You have to actively go get it. You need a massive set of lungs to suck air in from the outside. Then you need a transport system blood to hold the oxygen. Then you need a powerful pump, the heart, to shove that oxygen-rich blood deep into every tissue.
So complexity isn't just, like, better.
Yeah.
It's a direct requirement of being big. If you want to be big, you have to be complex.
Exactly. You need a huge digestive system to break down massive amounts of food. You need a nervous system to coordinate 4 massive legs and a trunk. It's a logistical nightmare that requires specialized systems.
Which leads us to the next problem. We have millions of different animals. Some are blobs, some are giants, some fly, some swim. It's total chaos. How do we even begin to organize all of this?
That is the headache that is taxonomy.
I feel like biologists just love Latin words, but there's a very good reason for it, right?
There is. Before we had a system, it was a total mess. You go to England and call a bird a robin. Then you go to America and see a completely different bird and also call it a robin. Then you go to Australia and see a third, totally unrelated bird.
And call it a robin.
Exactly. And none of them are related. It was confusing and unscientific. So enter Carl Linnaeus in the 18th century, the father of modern taxonomy. He said, we need a universal address system for nature.
The hierarchy. Kingdom, phylum, class, order.
Let's walk through it because it's actually really logical once you see it in action. It's like zooming in on a map. Let's take the Manx cat.
Okay, the cat with no tail.
Right. We start at the very top. Kingdom, Animalia. It's an animal. Okay.
Yeah.
That narrows it down from everything to, well, millions of things.
Not very helpful, yeah.
Zoom in. Phylum. Chordata. This means it has a spinal cord, or at least a notochord. So we've just dumped all the insects, the jellyfish, the worms, the lobster. We're left with fish, birds, reptiles, mammals.
Okay, still a pretty big group.
Zoom in again. Class. Mammalia. It has fur and it produces milk. Bye-bye birds, fish, and reptiles.
Carnivora. It eats meat. Bye-bye cows and horses and rabbits.
Felidae. It's a cat. So we're getting rid of the dogs, the bears, the seals.
Ephelis. This means it's a small cat, so bye-bye to the lions, tigers, and leopards. And finally, species. Felis catus, the domestic cat.
So it's a funnel. You start with everything and you just keep narrowing it down until there's only one thing left.
And that 2-part name, Felis catus, is universal. A scientist in Japan and a scientist in Brazil know exactly what Felis catus is. There's no confusion with a robin.
And sometimes the names themselves are just great. The source mentions the J.
Garrulus glandarius.
This sounds like a Harry Potter spell or something.
It does a bit, but if you just translate it from the Latin, garrulus means chattering or noisy, and glandarius refers to acorns.
So the scientific name is literally chattering acorn eater.
Which is the most perfect description of a jay you could possibly imagine. It screams at predators from the treetops and it spends its autumn burying acorns. The name tells you who it is and what it does.
But this game is changing, right? I mean, we used to just look at animals and say, hey, that looks like a cat. Let's put it in the cat folder.
Yeah.
But now we have DNA.
The genetic revolution. And this is completely upset the apple cart. We are realizing that for centuries, our eyes have been lying to us.
Give me an example of a lie our eyes told us.
The tiger. For a century, we looked at tigers in India, tigers in China, tigers in Malaysia, and we said they're all tigers, same animal.
I mean, they look the same. Stripes, big teeth, orange fur.
They do. But in 2004, scientists finally ran the DNA. They looked at the genetic code itself, and they found that the tigers living in Malaysia were so genetically distinct from all the others that they weren't just a different population, they were an entirely different subspecies.
So they had been evolving on their own path for a huge amount of time, and we just didn't notice because they looked similar.
Exactly. And so Panthera tigris jacksoni, the Malaysian tiger, was officially recognized, a new tiger that had been there all along.
And sometimes DNA finds things before we even see them with our eyes. That Sayola story is just wild.
This is one of my all-time favorite stories of discovery. It's 1992 in Vietnam. A team of scientists are surveying the Vu Quang Nature Reserve. They find a pair of horns in a hunter's house. Just the horns.
No body, no picture.
Nothing. No body, no photo, no skin.
Fair.
They scrape some biological material off the base of the horn, they take it back to the lab, run the DNA, and the computer basically says, error, unknown.
Didn't match anything in the database.
Nothing. It was clearly a large mammal in the bovine family, but it was totally new to science. They discovered a new species of ox purely from genetic scrapings. It took them 2 more years to actually find a live one in the forest.
That is just, it's CSI, jungle. That's incredible. So we know what they are and we know how to name them. But the big question, the how did we get here question, is evolution.
The engine of all this change.
And we have to talk about the elephant again. Because looking at an elephant today, it's so hard to imagine it being anything else.
Yeah.
It's so specific. The trunk, the ears, the tusks.
But it wasn't always a giant with a built-in hose. If you dial the clock back 36 million years, you meet an animal called Ethereum.
And what did that look like?
Picture a tapir, or maybe a very small, pig-like hippo. It was about the size of a pig, it has short legs, a regular-looking nose, and it lived in and around swamps.
So how on earth do you go from a swamp pig to a tusker?
Pressure. Evolutionary pressure. Over millions and millions of years, the environment changed. Maybe the swamps dried up, or the competition for food on the ground got too intense. Whatever the reason, the ancestors of the elephant started reaching for leaves and trees.
So taller animals survived better. They had more to eat.
Right. If you're a little bit taller, you get more food, you survive, you have more babies. So the species gradually gets taller. But here is the mechanics problem. If you get really tall and you have a heavy head with tusks, you need a short, strong neck to support it.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you have a tall body and a short neck, how do you drink water from the ground? You can't reach.
You'd have to kneel down every single time.
Which is very awkward and dangerous for a heavy animal. So natural selection favored animals that had slightly longer upper lips, slightly longer noses.
The snorkel.
The snorkel that eventually became a grabber. Over 30 million years, that nose elongated, it became muscular, it fused with the upper lip, and it turned into the trunk. It's not just a nose, it's a tool that was evolved to solve the geometry problem of being tall with a short neck.
It's amazing to think of the trunk not as a nose, but as a solution to a physics problem.
That's all evolution is. It's just solving problems with whatever parts you have available. And sometimes very different animals solve very different problems using the exact same set of parts.
This is the homologous structures thing, right?
Yes. Hold up your hand. You have a shoulder, an upper arm bone, 2 forearm bones, a wrist, and 5 fingers.
Got it. Standard human arm.
Now look at a dolphin's flipper. On the outside, it is just a paddle. But if you x-ray it, inside that flipper, hidden under the flesh, are those exact same bones. Shoulder, arm, wrist, and 5 little finger bones. But they're fused and flattened to make a paddle for swimming.
It's a swimming hand.
Exactly. Now look at a bat's wing. It's a flying hand. The finger bones are incredibly long and thin, and they stretch out a web of skin, the patagium. But it's still a hand. A shoulder, an arm, a wrist, 5 fingers.
So a bat high-fiving a dolphin is basically the same anatomy touching.
Precisely. It's powerful evidence that we all came from a common ancestor that had that basic 4-limb plan. We are all just variations on a theme.
Speaking of variations, the source material has this section on future evolution. It's speculative, obviously, but it's also kind of terrifying.
It's a great thought experiment. What happens in, say, 5 million years?
They paint this picture of the Amazon, but not the rainforest we know.
No. They run a simulation where global warming completely dries out the basin. The jungle dies off. It becomes a vast, dry grassland, a savanna like in Africa.
So the monkeys are gone. The jaguars are gone. The whole ecosystem is wiped.
Nature hates a vacuum. If the top predator, the jaguar, disappears, something else eventually evolves to fill that slot. The speculation is that the caracara, which is currently a medium-sized scavenging bird in South America, could evolve to fill that niche.
They call it the terror bird.
And we've seen it happen before in the fossil record. After the dinosaurs died, for a while the top predators in South America were giant, flightless birds with massive, axe-like beaks, running down prey on two powerful legs.
So you're telling me to imagine a hawk, but it's 7 feet tall, can't fly, runs as fast as an ostrich, and eats meat.
That is a very distinct possibility for the future of the Amazon.
I do not want to be around for the reign of the terror bird.
But don't worry, we'll probably be long gone by then.
Somehow not comforting. Okay, so that's the future. But right now, in the present, animals are doing some wild things just to survive. Section 5, adaptation.
This is the special powers section of the animal kingdom.
Some of these sound completely made up. Let's talk about the epaulet shark. A shark that walks.
It lives in very shallow reefs in Australia and New Guinea, and its biggest problem is the tide. When the tide goes out, this shark can get trapped in a tiny, isolated rock pool.
And a normal shark would suffocate in there pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. These small pools run out of oxygen fast, especially in the tropical heat. Great white would die in minutes. But the epaulet shark has a superpower. It can intentionally shut down non-essential brain functions.
It puts its brain into power-saving mode.
Exactly like a laptop. It can survive for hours with almost no oxygen. And if the pool dries up completely, it uses its muscular fins to literally crawl across the dry reef to find the next pool of water.
A land-walking, brain-shutting shark. That is survival at its most extreme. What about the eye?
The Madagascar nightmare. I love this animal. It's a type of lemur, and it has a very specific diet. It eats grubs that live deep inside tree trunks.
How does it get them out?
It has a multi-step toolkit built into its body. First, it has giant bat-like ears to listen for the tiny sound of a grub chewing inside the wood. Second, it has rodent-like teeth that never stop growing, so it can gnaw a hole in the bark. And third, the finger.
The finger.
Its middle finger is skeletal. It's incredibly long and thin and flexible. It looks like a withered twig. It inserts this specialized finger into the hole it chewed and literally fishes out the grub.
So it evolved a built-in lockpick.
Adaptation is usually about evolving the right tools. Look at the raw hyrax. It looks like a big guinea pig, but it lives on vertical cliff faces in Africa and the Middle East.
How does it not just fall off?
It has sweaty feet.
Excuse me.
Its foot pads are soft and rubbery, and special glands in its feet keep them permanently moist with sweat. It creates a suction cup effect. It can run straight up a sheer vertical rock wall because its feet stick to the stone.
That is extremely handy. And then there's the mud skipper, the fish that just refuses to be a fish.
It's a perfect example of an evolutionary bridge. It lives in mangrove swamps where the water is often terrible. It's muddy, it's low on oxygen, so the mud skipper spends most of its time out of the water.
But it has gills. It has to breathe.
It does. It fills its mouth and its gill chambers with water, then clamps them shut. It basically carries its own water supply with it, like a scuba diver in reverse, a reverse scuba fish.
And it climbs trees.
To get away from predators in the water, yes. It uses its strong pectoral fins, almost like crutches, to haul itself up the roots of mangrove trees.
It's just amazing. Every single rule we think exists in nature. Fish stay in water. Sharks have to swim constantly. Biology finds a way to break it.
Because the only real rule is survive. If walking on land helps a fish survive, then eventually the fish will walk.
But survival isn't a solo sport, right? This connects to the next big topic, ecology, the web of life.
You can't look at an animal in isolation, ever. Everything is connected. The classic example that's always taught is the rock pool ecosystem.
Okay, walk me through the chain of command in a rock pool.
Okay. At the bottom, you have algae. That's the producer, making energy from the sun. Then you have limpets and mussels. They are the grazers, kind of the cows of the rock pool. They scrape algae off the rocks. Then you have the starfish, the predator. It slowly moves around and eats the limpets and the mussels.
It sounds peaceful enough.
It's a war zone, but it's a balanced war. Some scientists did an experiment years ago where they removed all the starfish from a rock pool. They just took the top predator out of the equation.
And what happened? Did the limpets just have a massive party?
For a little while. But actually the mussels took over. Without the starfish eating them, the mussels reproduced like crazy. They covered every single inch of rock, they crowded out the algae, which couldn't get any sunlight, they crowded out the limpets. The entire diverse ecosystem collapsed into a single monoculture of mussels.
So the predator was actually protecting the diversity of the whole system.
Exactly. The starfish is a keystone species. You pull that one brick out and the entire arch falls down.
That reminds me of the ant and aphid story from the notes. This is less war and more agriculture.
It's a form of mutualism. This is incredible. Walnut aphids are little bugs that suck sap from plants. As they digest it, they excrete a sugary liquid called honeydew.
Which ants love.
Ants are absolutely addicted to it. So the ants have learned to farm the aphids. They will actually walk up to them and stroke them with their antenna.
Set them.
They massage them. And this stimulates the aphid to release a drop of the sugar. The ant drinks it. But in return for the food, the ants become bodyguards. If a ladybug comes along to eat the aphid, the ants will swarm and attack the ladybug, driving it away.
So the aphids have hired a private security force, and they pay them in sugar.
Humans are not the only farmers on this planet.
That is just wild.
Yeah.
But sometimes the balance tips too far, sometimes the system breaks. And that leads us to the heavy part of this deep dive, extinction.
It is the shadow that follows all life.
The source material makes a point of saying that extinction is natural. It happens all the time.
Oh, absolutely. 99% of all species that have ever lived are gone now. The dinosaurs, the ammonites. These were wiped out by massive natural disasters, asteroid impacts, huge volcanic eruptions.
Or the woolly mammoth. That wasn't an asteroid, was it?
That was climate change. The ice age ended, the world got warmer, the glaciers retreated, and the vast cold grasslands they ate turned into forests. They couldn't adapt fast enough. That's natural extinction.
But then there's the dodo.
The dodo is different. That is the new kind of extinction, the human-caused kind.
Mauritius, 17th century.
Right, an isolated island in the Indian Ocean. The dodo had no natural predators. It was a large, flightless pigeon that had completely lost its fear mechanism. When sailors arrived, the birds would just waddle right up to them out of curiosity.
Curiosity killed the bird.
Well, the sailors ate them, sure. They were easy food. But the real killers were the rats, cats, and pigs that got off the ships. They escaped onto the island and ate the dodo's eggs. The dodo nested on the ground because, for millions of years, it never had to hide its eggs from anything.
So it wasn't just hunting to death. It was the introduction of an invasive species that destroyed the cradle.
And we are seeing that exact pattern repeat all over the world today. The Mediterranean monk seal is a tragic case.
How many of those are even left?
Fewer than 500. They used to lounge on open beaches to have their pups. But humans have taken over all the beaches for tourism, so the seals have retreated into dark sea caves to give birth. But the caves are dangerous. High tides can wash the pups away. They're being pushed into a corner they simply can't survive in.
Or the kakapo in New Zealand.
Another big, friendly, flightless bird. A parrot. Rats and stoats are eating their eggs. The only reason they are still alive is because conservationists have physically moved the entire remaining population to small, offshore islands that have been cleared of all predators. They're refugees in their own country.
It's really depressing. But we have to look at the winds, too. We can fix things.
We can, when we choose to. Look at the peregrine falcon.
This is the DDT thing, right?
Yeah. DDT was a miracle pesticide in the 50s and 60s. We sprayed it everywhere to kill insects. But it washed into the rivers, the fish absorbed it, and then the falcons ate the fish.
Biomagnification.
Right. The poison became more and more concentrated as it went up the food chain. It didn't kill the adult falcons, but it messed with their calcium metabolism. When the females laid eggs, the shells were paper thin. When the mother sat on the eggs to warm them, her own body weight crushed them.
That is just heart-breaking.
It really is. We almost lost the species completely. But we figured out the problem. We banned DDT in 1972. And nature is resilient. Once the poison was out of the system, the shells got hard again, the falcons rebounded. They are common in many cities now.
That proves that if we just stop hitting nature with a hammer, it can actually heal itself.
Exactly. The Arabian oryx is another amazing story. It went extinct in the wild, 0 left, wiped out by hunters. But a few zoos, mainly in Phoenix and San Diego, had a small population. They started a breeding program, they built a healthy herd, and then they flew them back to Oman and reintroduced them to the desert.
That's a sci-fi moment. The species existed only in captivity and was then rebooted in the wild.
But speaking of sci-fi, we have to talk about the quagga.
The Resurrection Project.
This is deeply controversial and fascinating. The quagga was a relative of the plains zebra that lived in South Africa. It was beautiful. It had stripes on the front half of its body and a plain, brown, horse-like body on the back half. Hunters wiped it out completely in the 1880s.
Gone forever.
Or so we thought. Years later, geneticists realized that the quagga wasn't a totally separate species from the plain zebra. It was just a subspecies, a local variation. So they thought, the genes for that weird coat pattern must still be floating around in the general zebra population.
So they started a breeding program to find them.
They found plains zebras that had slightly fewer stripes on their butts and legs and bred them together. Then they took the babies with the fewest stripes and bred them together. They're selectively breeding their way back to the quagga coat pattern.
But it's actually working.
Visually, yes. They have animals now that look almost exactly like the stuffed quaggas we have in museums. They call them royal quaggas, after the project's founder.
But the critic in me has to ask, is it really a quagga? Or is it just a zebra that you've painted to look like a quagga?
That is the deep philosophical question, isn't it? We can recreate the look. We might even get the DNA to match perfectly. But we can't recreate the learned behavior, the social structure, the culture of the animal that was lost. It's like making a perfect photocopy of the Mona Lisa. It looks the same, but is it the same piece of art?
It definitely raises the stakes. We can't just count on, Jurassic Parking our mistakes away.
No, extinction is usually forever.
Yeah.
The quagga project is a noble and fascinating experiment, but saving the monk seal while it's still here is infinitely easier than trying to rebuild it from scratch 100 years from now.
That's the takeaway, really.
It is.
Man, we have covered some serious ground today. We started with the weight of a whale's tongue, and we ended with the ethics of genetic resurrection.
It's a big kingdom. You can't cover it in a day.
I want to leave our listeners with one final, slightly disturbing thought. We talked about the terror bird evolving in the future Amazon.
Right.
But evolution is driven by pressure. And right now, the biggest environmental pressure on planet Earth is us. Humans. We are changing the climate. We are building cities that cover entire continents. We're spreading plastic into every ocean.
We are the new asteroid.
So if we look 5 million years down the line, what kind of animals evolve to survive a world that was made by humans? Do we get giant concrete-eating rats? Do we get bacteria that evolve to feed on microplastics?
It's entirely possible. The successful animals of the future will be the ones that can adapt to survive us and the world we leave behind.
That is a truly humbling thought. We aren't just living in the world. We are actively shaping the biology of the future.
And that engine of evolution never, ever stops running.
Well, on that note, keep looking under the hood, everyone. You never know what you might find on a bee's back. Thanks for listening.